Hey YouTubers! A little while ago I had a couple of visitors to my door, and it was Jehovah's Witnesses. Now at this particular time I was in my dressing gown, so I didn't invite them in, and I do like to invite them in. In fact, I really get upset if I miss out on a visit by Jehovah's Witnesses. I haven't had so many lately, I've got to be honest. Probably starting to get wary of me, but anyway, what happened in this particular case is we had a quick discussion about evolution, and I tried to explain a little to them. And they seemed okay with it. That was fine. Went away and they said perhaps we can come back. I said please do, you know, as you do. A few weeks later, I was out. I was working in fact, and they came to visit. And my wife, she answered the door, and she's not interested in that sort of thing, to be honest. She just, no thank you. One of those, which most people tend to say. But they left me at the time with this, their little book Life. How did it get there? Or how did it get here rather? And as you can see from this copy, it's a little bit dog-eared. Unfortunately, dog-eared being the word, because my little puppy actually chewed it a little bit. I hope they don't want it back. If they do, I tell you what, I'll give them a copy of one of my Dawkins books with it, and they can read that. Anyway, the thing is, this book, it has every creationist piece of crap in it you could ever imagine. It's absolute nonsense, and I think every debunking ever done on YouTube, every one of them is in here. Everything that is wrong about creationist thinking is in this book. And it has these annoying pictures that look like they came out of my 1970s children's Bible. Look at that one, isn't that hideous? Okay. Awful stuff. Anyway, that's not the point. A couple of weeks later, they come back. And I was in, so I said, come on in, have a cup of tea. And I spent quite a bit of time really trying to teach them about evolution. And after a while, thinking I might be getting somewhere, I'm not sure, I got to a point where I said, what do you think came first, the chicken or the egg? And they both went, well, the chicken. And I went, oh, right. And funny enough, on YouTube people have actually been using that phrase to me, and it's time. I mean, there's lots of things out there that will show you what comes first, chicken or the egg. But it is time for me to do a video so that I can point them to it and don't have to explain it to people again, hopefully. Oh, right. Anyway, back in, through evolutionary time, we have seen there's animals like fish, there's animals like the amphibians. They laid eggs in water, and they relied very much upon being the sperm floating around from the males and generally fertilizing the eggs. When it came to reptiles, there was a sort of new factor. Reptiles didn't rely upon water anymore. They did have that harder exterior shell, and of course themselves they had scales. They didn't lose water in the same way, and it embarked upon egg laying, really. Oh, excuse me. Anyway, so what's the point? Where am I getting to? Well, I've got something here today which I think is absolutely fabulous. I'm going to show you this. No, it's not a couple of turds. These are these are eggs. They come from the Gobi Desert and from Inner Mongolia. Okay, these are from a nest of an oviraptor. These are dinosaur eggs, and I am very lucky to have them in my hand here today. And this sort of red colouring comes from the sort of sand and the overlaying rock. However, oviraptor eggs. How do I know they're real? Well, because I'm a fossil dealer. Anyway, beside the point. Let me get on to the next bit. Okay, so why is oviraptor, or the oviraptor, an important specimen? These are just the eggs. In the 1920s, a famous expedition, it was an American expedition actually, discovered in the Gobi Desert groups of dinosaur eggs. And these dinosaur eggs, they weren't sure what they were, but obviously from the Cretaceous period. Nearby they found a skeleton, a famous skeleton of an oviraptor. Oviraptor itself means egg stealer, if you translate the name. And it was believed that oviraptors were, this particular dinosaur, was stealing eggs and got caught in probably a landslide or something similar that covered the whole nest in mud. Further expeditions and further excavation has uncovered oviraptor remains on these nests of eggs. Also, oviraptors were part of the feathered dinosaur group. They also had beaks, and because of the way that the eggs were laid out in nests, they obviously had nesting sites, and grouped in areas, specific areas, it's likely they nested in groups also, albeit not exactly next to each other. So quite a few of these eggs have now been found, and just a couple of specimens of oviraptors. So we're pretty sure that these are oviraptor eggs. However, the important thing is, here we have a beaked dinosaur. Yes, it's a dinosaur with a beak, possibly an omnivore. Very likely to be an omnivore. It could have coped with sort of nuts and things, but also could have been quite vicious. So, but the thing is, they lived in nests. They had feathers. They had these elongated arms, and part of, as I say, the raptor group. And when we look at things like Archaeopteryx, now even in my life book we have Archaeopteryx. And hopefully you're picking that up nicely. Yep, even that mentions it. And Archaeopteryx has no link between reptile and bird. Well, in a way that's true, but only in a very certain way. It's not a link between reptiles and birds. It's a link between dinosaurs and birds. And it was a more dinosaur than it was, of course, reptile. So when you hear that quoted to you, that's rubbish. Now, obviously, the birds developed from the raptors, the dinosaurs, and they have subspeciated immensely today. There must have been a point in time when you would call a certain bird, a certain generation, a chicken or something similar, probably a type of wildfowl. But at some point in evolution you wouldn't actually notice much difference between that bird and its parents and the parents before that. It's just a way of naming things when it comes to naming. When does a sparrow suddenly become a sparrow? Before that it could just be a finch. And this is the way classifications help, help scientists, but don't really help in explaining things. Obviously the egg came first, and it was the predecessor of the chicken that laid the egg. I hope that helps, and I hope we don't have to. I hope I don't have to explain that again to people. I'm just going to say, look at this video, and hopefully that's going to help you. Anyway, I'll probably run out of time because I always waffle on a bit. Actually, there is one other thing I'd like to show you before I go. Bear with me. Okay, just quickly, here's another dinosaur egg that I just happen to have. It's not a brilliant specimen, but you still can make out quite a bit of the eggshell. And this is in fact a sauropod egg. As you see, it's a big old egg. Not entirely sure which one, but again, these sauropods, they nested in large groups, and much like birds, but on the ground, obviously, and probably in the same way as, say, the gannets or something like that, in groups together. This one's from China. It's around 70 million years old, from the Cretaceous again, and as I say, not sure which sauropod, but that's the big ones. They're the you know, those big old, what we used to call the Brontosaurus, Diplodocus, and all that sort of thing. Certainly from that family, and again, these were laid in large groups, and sometimes massive floods came in and covered the eggs up and destroyed the entire generation for that year in particular. So here we have one of those. So just thought you'd like to see it, really. But there you go. Peace. Speak to you soon.